What's up, everybody? Welcome into another YouTube live show. I am John Kurtz, back in the old humble abode here. No more looking like I am being interrogated, at least hopefully. Doesn't look like I'm still in a police interrogation slash hostage situation sort of video. I am much more comfortable being back here in the home studio. I am not going to lie, but lest you think that because the Big 12 has now added the four corner schools and the Big 10 has now added Oregon and Washington, the conference realignment was going to slow down, because we still continue to get headlines seemingly every day. Today, a lot of that concerns the ACC. Yes, not so much what happens to the four remaining schools in the pack. It is much more about what is happening with Cal and Stanford. It has become very clear that Cal and Stanford are the two best brands left. I mean, look, we all kind of knew that. And so now the ACC is going to discuss them after the Big Ten did seem to have some cursory discussions about them before opting to just extend invitations to Oregon and Washington. And this is one of those moments where it feels like conference realignment has officially jumped the shark if we are talking about teams from the Pacific end of the spectrum here, right? The Pacific 12 going to play in the Atlantic Coast Conference. We would be sending teams from the Pacific Coast to the Atlantic Coast. That's where we're at in this silly, stupid conference realignment game. Now, don't get that twisted. This is not going to be an entire show centering around the beef that I think we all have with what the sport has turned into, because I am certainly in tune with that. I certainly agree with that. I certainly wish that the sport could go, we could put this toothpaste back in the tube and not be controlled by TV money. I agree with everybody that is saying that. However, I am a bit annoyed that it is just this massive of an outpouring of that sentiment now, when it's the Pac-12 that implodes, and it was not there for the Big 12. And had the Big 12 gone the way of like merging with the AAC or something, like nobody would have been doing this. Nobody would have been doing this at all. So yes, I am still going to have a chip on my shoulder about that. May do a separate video specifically taking down some of those narratives and points. But for right now, I will just address it as such. Yes, it is pretty ridiculous that we're looking right now at the ACC potentially adding Stanford and Cal. I can admit that. As far as the Big 12 goes, there have been disputing reports, and maybe disputing is perhaps a little bit too strong, conflicting-ish reports on whether or not the Big 12 has any legitimate interest in Oregon State and San Diego State and trying to expand further west. I'll give you the latest from Brett McMurphy, who, by the way, has sources saying no, that is probably not going to happen for the Big 12. I think there was a bit of a battle of semantics before with a Jason Scheer report and then what Brett McMurphy had put out. So we will cover all of that ground. I'm not a huge fan of continuing to expand west at this point. I mean, look, you guys know I am a little bit partial to both of those schools, both Oregon State and San Diego State. I feel like San Diego State has been really screwed through this process. They got screwed by George Kliavkoff in the Pac-12. And Oregon State certainly has just been screwed by the general whole TV dollar conference realignment thing anyway. And taking them at some sort of reduced share, I mean, like, I'll at least listen. I will listen on both of those, but I'm not sure that it's the most prudent thing to do here as of right now. But we'll get you the latest info on that. Honestly, what has captivated my attention the most today as a Big 12 fan in Big 12 country, it is the reactions of the new four corner schools and the entrances that they are making on their way in, specifically Utah, Arizona State. Utah, incredibly professional, courteous press conference that they had with their leadership just jumped off the page to me. That they have very good leadership in place at Utah, and it does not surprise me that they have been as successful as they have on the football field. Arizona, very much the same. I think Robert Robbins was obviously very integral in what happened in getting the four corner schools over to the Big 12. Compare and contrast that with Arizona State, which we've already had both the athletic director and the president make headlines for the wrong reasons with their comments about the Big 12 heading in. And it makes total sense why Arizona State has been kind of a mess. And everybody says they're a sleeping giant. They've never capitalized on that giant house or on that giant part. Sorry, I'm looking down at the chat, reading the word house. They've never capitalized on that giant part because they have, I mean, just that leadership. We've got to talk about Arizona State. I'm officially declaring it right now. I will just go ahead and declare it right now. After seeing Utah fans change their tune a little bit upon coming into the league, and then seeing what the leadership looks like at Utah, I am much more back on board with the Utes, combined with just the fact that, I mean, hey, they do win. They do win. That's going to add some pretty good football to the conference. I'm not sure exactly what the hell Arizona State is adding right now, and they have some very bad leadership. So anyway, that is the table set for today. I mean, there are some other things here. We got a really negative tweet from Heather Dinich about possibilities for the college football playoff that would be very bad for anybody not named the Big Ten or the SEC, which is another kind of just scary reminder of where it is that we are going. There is now talk, or at least that an option is out there, that the college football playoff could wind up being just basically, since the Pac-12 has crumbled, it could be going to just the top 12 teams, putting those teams out there instead of having any auto qualifiers. That would obviously be bad news for the Big 12. It would be really bad news for Group of 5 conferences. But that's the way all of this is pushing with consolidation, right? And that's why the Big 12 is doing everything they can right now to continue to make this league as good as possible and really have a seat at the table. So again, speaking of the table, it is set. Those are the topics coming up today. I'm here, though, for whatever it is you guys want to talk about. I know it's been a couple days since I've done the live show. Was driving back yesterday. Thank you for accommodating me with that. Would have loved to have done a show yesterday, but I was driving and didn't get in until like midnight. So was not able to do that yesterday. We're here to attack it all today. Everything you've got, you can get your question or comment here on the chat by clicking the $ below the chat box where it says say something. Hey, it says say something again today. We're ditching the chat. You know, for so long it was chat. Now we're back to say something. Below the chat box where it says say something, that is how you can attach a donation to your question or comment, make it a super chat. That will pin it at the top for me, guarantees that it gets read. I can't keep up with everything that is going on in the chat with almost 300 people in here already. Hell, you just saw me botch something by looking at the chat and then just reading it like I'm Ron Burgundy on a teleprompter. It'll just read everything that you put on the prompter. So clearly, I don't have the brain power to keep up with all of that. I got a communications degree from a Truck Stop University. So Truck Stop Conference University. So you can't expect me to be doing a whole lot of that. So you got to attach a donation, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something in order to do that. That will not only get your question or comment on the show, allow you to control some of the content tonight, but also help support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 and conference realignment content on a weekly basis. Could not do it without all of your support, and I sincerely appreciate all of you guys who do. Also, if you want to support the channel, just a totally free way to do that. Just give me a like, just one click. Just like that video. That would be much appreciated as well. And feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below the video, before, during, or after. All of that stuff helps me too, even if it is you telling me that I suck and that you hope that cockroaches crawl out of my eyeballs at one point in time, which is a real thing that has been said to me before. Actually, back when I was writing for the K-State Collegian student newspaper, got that in the comment section once upon a time and never forgot it. So you could be the next person to lodge one of those into my brain. All you have to do is comment and help me with that YouTube algorithm. You can also donate on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4. If you are not watching this live and you still want to support the channel, John-Kurtz-4. Appreciate all of you guys who do that as well. And with that, we're going to start today with Wolf58, who is first in the chat tonight. What's up, Wolf58? Wolf58 says, important. No one killed the Pac-12, not USC, Big 12, or Big 10. Through executive buffoonery and arrogance on every level, the Pac-12 committed suicide. We had another one here from Wolf58 who says, also keep in mind that 3/4, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, of the Pac-12 included teams taken from other conferences. Well, I certainly agree with you on the point about, people trying to pin any of this really on the Big 12. Look, the Big 12 was put in this position to have to fight for its survival. 6 teams have been taken from this conference. So there is no world where you can come back and say, hey, the Big 12 shouldn't have done this. No, the Big 12 had to do this because we know what happens. Eventually, things get picked off. Eventually, your league explodes if you are not proactive about things. They had to be proactive about this. Brett Yormark clearly understood that. And just because for once they were not the dope that didn't get it, that does not mean that you got to come down on them. Everybody else has been doing this for a long time. And that is a piece of it. I really do feel like there is some of that draped in the narrative that has surrounded all of this, these woeful cries for the death of the Pac-12. And I will admit, like, you guys heard my show on Friday. I mean, I was definitely having some of those feelings of, I was just feeling bad. Lots of empathy all the way around for everybody involved. I understand. I get it. I love college football. I don't want to see, in an ideal world, the Pac-12 go away. But like, this is the game we play now. And it just, it's, again, it goes back. Like, Big 12 fans have been playing this game for a while. We know that your conference can very well end with conference realignment because the Big 12 has been there on death's doorstep twice. West Virginia has been on death's doorstep before. West Virginia has seen the realignment chairs not work out the way that they want to get into the ACC multiple times. This is a conference full of schools that have dealt with that before. And it feels like the rest of the country, it just like finally registered for all of them that this is a thing that can happen. A conference can just go down. Like, it can be the Titanic and just split and sink. It is not some unsinkable ship. The Big 12 has taken on water before. We understood that. So we are just much more desensitized to it. And when it was happening here, when the iceberg hit and water was coming in July of 2021, you didn't see much of this sentiment out there for the Big 12. And I know I'm a broken record on that, but it is very frustrating. It is still frustrating to me. Wolf 58, I would understand if someone wanted to say, hey, USC in some ways kind of killed the Pac-12 because USC, the president at USC kind of shot down the idea of expansion, of trying to snatch up Big 12 teams or merge with Big 12 teams in 2021, then turned around and left the league and left the Pac-12 in a terrible spot. I can understand placing blame there. I can understand placing blame on the Big 10. They are the ones that harbored USC and UCLA. But if your overall point is kind of what I'm saying, like, this has been going on for a long time. The greed started long ago. I saw like Ari Wasserman, who, I think is pretty good at what he does, but annoys me because he's very much all about the big brands as a recruiting guy. Ari Wasserman saying, hey, like, college football peaked basically in like 2014 after we first started the playoff, and we only get one more year of this. And like, it was disgusting what happened the other day. And I'm like, look, Ari, it's all fine and good, but I did not hear you saying that 2 years ago. So I digress. There is plenty of blame to go around, but if you want to say all of this is disgusting and like the TV thing, it started back, really, if we want to pin it, it's the Supreme Court in 1984 making that landmark decision to allow TV to be much more a part of the game. If we want to really truly trace everything back, it would be to that. That was the beginning of the end. So I'm okay if we want to just not place blame on a single person or a single entity in all of this, just as long as we are consistent with that. And yes, Wolf 58, I also love that you point out, like, hey, there are lots of players here that are not, like, the Eli Drinkwitz thing. I will use Wolf 58 to bring up Eli Drinkwitz, head coach at Mizzou. He's made a lot of headlines for comments that he had. He went on it was an almost 3-minute rant when he was asked at the podium about realignment. And hey, did we really ask the student athletes about this? This is all driven by money, the same criticism that you usually hear, which is great. And I think more people like him need to speak up if something is going to happen. However, it does fall a little bit on deaf ears to me because Mizzou has already left a conference. They're a part of the reason the Big 12 is in a position to have to do this and have to go be a part of killing another league. And Eli Drinkwitz also makes a lot of money. And I would turn around and say, like, well, Eli, why don't you at Mizzou, since you're complaining about travel, just move back to the Big 12 so that all of you guys could not worry near as much about the travel. You'd be able to travel by bus. It would just be way shorter charter flights, all that. Well, why won't Missouri do it? Because of money. Because of the same thing that he's raging against and complaining about, money. So there's hypocrisy there. 100% there is. But basically, there is for anybody that's going to speak up about it in college football right now. Because everybody, if you want to call it, has blood on their hands or just has, dipped themselves into the honey jar a little bit. Like, everybody's involved here. Everybody's involved here. So there is nobody that can say any of this without a lot of hypocrisy coming from it. So I think valid points, Wolf 58. I think valid points. Let's see. Starter 179. We need to have a convo on ASU's clunky entrance. Oh, we are going to. Starter 179. I will get to it. We are going to have a conversation on Arizona State's clunky entrance. And I will defend the honor of Morgantown, West Virginia, because that makes me mad. I don't like seeing Morgantown hate because I know that so many of the people that would hate on it have never actually been there, and particularly never actually been there for a game day, like a college football Saturday. Christian, what's up, Christian? Christian says the shelf is okay, but I missed the interrogation setup. Yeah, well, hey, we had a fun show. We had a fun show with the interrogation setup for sure. So, maybe I can bring it back sometime just for old time's sake. PB, what's up, PB? Thank you for your support. I appreciate you being here. PB, I'm not seeing the message there. It says message retracted, but I appreciate your support. If you got something, just make sure and let me know. Charles, what's up, Charles? Charles said, started from the irate 8. Now we're here. Hashtag roll clones. Yes, we have doubled. We have doubled in size. That still seems weird to me. I was listening to 365 earlier today, and at one point someone said that, like, that the conference has doubled, gone from 8 to 16. And I was like, man, that really is wild. There have been 8 teams added. 8 teams since I can remember sitting there in the early days of Texas, Oklahoma leaving and trying to figure out what exactly the hell was going on. Christian, what's up, Christian? I think the final Bedlam will get College Game Day. I mean, it's impossible to tell right now based on what the other competition is going to be. And there's so many factors that can come into that. But I would think it would stand a pretty good chance. I'd have to go look and see what it's competing against just on paper right now. But I would think that it would stand a pretty good chance. And hopefully ESPN will be more inclined to lean into some of those things because, one, they've got the SEC. And 2, they've got a big chunk of the Big 12 now. So they've got a vested interest in both of those conferences. So, yes, I think it would stand a pretty good chance just going in blind, having not seen any of that. Jeff, what did Wisconsin think of the jawline? No comments on the jawline, unfortunately, in Wisconsin. I don't know if Wisconsin, if they've just got it's a better state for jawlines or what. A part of it, too, is I was at the CrossFit Games, right? I'm a big CrossFitter, basically like this week-long Super Bowl of CrossFit. So I was around tons of people who have much better jawlines than me. I was very much just another guy. PB, here's PB. What's up, PB? Kliavkov will be persona non grata from this point forward, deserved or not. What are the odds that he becomes commish of a combined Pac-4 Mountain West Conference? That is a really interesting question. I know I saw that he sent a text message to John Wilner. Maybe I can pull that up for you real quick and find that. He had responded to Wilner in a text and seemed to indicate like, hey, for right now, I'm going to keep pushing and keep doing what I'm doing. So it doesn't seem like he is going to give up. But does that mean that they would entrust him to be the leader of a new league, whatever that winds up being? I don't know. And I'm not sure that you guys know how I feel. I would not want him to be that guy. I would not want him to be that guy. I'm not seeing the Wilner post here real quick. But anyway, I apologize that I was not able to pull that up for you real quickly. But I would think the odds are fairly slim of that. I would certainly try to. I feel like, who's the Mountain West commissioner? Is that still Craig Thompson? Nope. That's right. Craig Thompson was retiring. I was going to say, I know Craig Thompson was very highly respected. So now it's Gloria Nevarez. Don't know much about her and what her reputation is. I knew Craig Thompson was a very highly respected guy. So I figured that he might have a shot if he were still going to be around. So no, I don't know. And I'll keep following that situation for sure. Obviously, I'm not quite as interested in it at this point, but I certainly do hope the best for most parties involved there. I don't know, Stanford and Cal, they can figure it out. Oregon State and Washington State, I certainly hope the best for and feel a little bit bad for. And on that front, Stanford and Cal. This is from ESPN. Pete Thamel, and everybody has been all over this. The Athletic has now reported it, all the national outlets. But I'm going to read to you from Thamel. He said, ACC leaders are set to begin exploratory discussions on the potential additions of Cal and Stanford to the conference, sources told ESPN on Monday. Sources caution that the 2 scheduled discussions are in the embryonic stages, one call slated with the ACC athletic directors and a separate call with the league presidents that will play out on Monday and Tuesday. There will be headwinds to a move for Cal and Stanford to the ACC, as sources on Monday cautioned about the complexities involved. Quote, it's complicated, one ACC source said. There's a significant travel expense. I think it's going to be all over the board with both ADs and presidents and what they may want to do. Cal and Stanford would likely have to take a reduced share. Eventually, though, they're going to want to become a full share. Yeah, Cal and Stanford are such an interesting beast in this whole realignment scenario because they don't bring in the revenue sports. They're not bringing much at all. Cal, I don't know how Cal has let itself get to the point that they are at, but that is a mess. They are bad. So Cal in particular, but like Stanford football, and I don't know, I really have not paid any attention to Stanford basketball at all. if a Stanford tree falls in the woods on a basketball court and nobody was around to see it, did it really happen at all? I have no idea what's been going on with Stanford men's basketball. But obviously, they both have pretty good overall athletic programs. Stanford may be the best top to bottom in the country, certainly in terms of like Olympic sports, non-revenue sports. They're as good as anybody. And the other thing is they bring the academic prestige. So lots of talk about academics and how much they matter actually in the context of realignment. I mean, to university presidents, they certainly still do. I was just watching Michael Crow's full press conference from the other day, and he made sure to make it a point to reiterate that they are an AAU school now. Like, that stuff does matter to presidents. And so when you're getting presidents involved in this decision-making process, their eyes are going to light up a little bit at the thought that they could go get a Cal or Stanford just to associate themselves with somebody that prestigious academically. So that will play a bit of a factor. But the ACC's problems are just so much bigger than anything Cal or Stanford could even come close to fixing. And then, of course, you have the logistics on all sides with the travel and the money, and would it be worth it? And the ACC then worrying about the contract, like the grant of rights. I'm sure like Florida State has to be looking at this like, all right, is there something they can screw up here? Somehow adding Stanford or Cal, they could screw something up, and this could be our opportunity to jump in with our legal team and find a cheaper way out of the ACC here. I guess I do. I understand both parts. Certainly, I understand Stanford or Cal looking into it. Like, it is ridiculous to think about going from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic coast to be playing all of your games. They don't have a whole lot of choice, and monetarily, even with wild travel costs, a reduced share of ACC money, say $20, $25 million a year, would beat the heck out of whatever the Mountain West thing. That's probably going to be single digits. You're probably still looking at over twice as much money, even with a reduced share in the ACC. So I think you're still probably coming out ahead there. But that does make me wonder, like, what the Big 12 interest actually is in Stanford. I'm not overly crazy about it because we've already got this Arizona State situation that we will talk about later, where they clearly don't seem happy to be here. Stanford clearly would not be happy to be here. They have thumbed their nose at the Big 12. They are the like elite ivory tower academic institution. But if their real concern with this is like, hey, we love the ACC because, we feel like we fit better culturally and they have some of those academics and a little more of that. But the real issue here is just travel and student athlete experience and all of that. Well, I mean, it'd be a hell of a lot closer to be traveling to the Big 12 schools. So I don't know what the Big 12 interest has actually been. If we are going to quote Jason Scheer and bring up a Jason Scheer tweet. He had one about Stanford. What did I do with it? Here we go. Jason Scheer says Stanford has options. ACC and Big 12 are all over them, but Stanford is going to have to put its pride to the side a little bit. So if we're believing Jason Scheer, then the Big 12 does have some level of interest there in Stanford. I don't know why Stanford wouldn't. Well, I do, because it is all about that pride thing. But it would make a lot more sense from an athletic standpoint for them to get cozy with the Big 12 and try to find a spot there. But that does not seem like a marriage that is going to work out on either side. A little bit more from Thamel here. The potential additions of Cal and Stanford do not project to be financial game changers. And while the addition of the academic prestige of schools like Cal and Stanford would certainly excite some presidents, the fiscal upside appears limited. Quote, there's no windfall for current members, the ACC source said, indicating that it's hard to envision any scenarios where it would significantly be additive to the current schools. And the point that I would make on this, if it were going to be, we would have seen some sort of merger between the Pac-12 and the ACC long ago. Because the way this is all unfolding now, and some of the things we found out about the Pac-12 deal after the fact and how this was going, I just read a letter from Kirk Schultz in the last hour before I came on here, and he said like there'd been like 30 meetings over the past 12 months for the leadership council and everybody involved there to try and get this TV deal together. They had clearly been painstakingly trying with this thing and nothing was materializing. I mean, we basically know now, like, Kliavkoff did not have a deal that he felt really comfortable presenting. And that's why he kept pushing this off and kind of gaslighting through his media comments and pushing this off. If there were basically, we know that they were in a dire situation because of that. If there were any way that merging with the ACC, like combining some of those schools, would have brought significantly more money. I mean, how many times did we see that idea floated? Like Wilner had floated it, Mandel had floated it. They clearly talked, they clearly vetted some of it and sussed it out and decided that it was not going to be financially something that would really work out for them. So if the case were that Stanford and Cal would actually legitimately add some money to you, like then there would have been some sort of merger with the Pac-12 long ago because they're lower on the totem pole than Oregon and Washington. So if you would have done that, there would have been more money in it at some point in time. Does not seem like something that's going to work. Honestly, it might just be something that would annoy Florida State more. And I guess at this point, if you're the ACC, maybe you don't care. Maybe you just say, we'll go for maximum annoyment of Florida State if they're going to be acting the way that they are, pretty childish here at the moment in trying to get out of the conference. I guess you could take that route and say, hey, we'll be better off for doing that. But anyway, there's your update on Stanford and Cal from Pete Thamel and what is happening with the ACC. I would still have my doubts that something works out there, but I really don't know what the most likely scenario is to play out here, and it's because of Stanford and Cal. Predominantly Stanford. I would think Cal has less reason to really stand on this like academic stuff because they don't have quite the overall prestige or just overall athletic department that a Stanford does. But it's hard for me to see them joining up with the Mountain West or allowing those schools in their conference. There's been talk of one or both going independent. I mean, it will be a very fascinating situation to see play out. I don't care all that much. They've got plenty of money overall at that university. They don't seem to have many alums that really care that much about sports. I guess if you are a diehard Cal fan, I do feel for you, but it does not seem like there are very many of those out there. So I just, look, I'll feel bad for Oregon State and Washington State all day. Not going to work up the same sort of thoughts for a Stanford or a Cal. All right, where did Luke go? Luke had a take here on this situation. Friendly Lukey Tube. What's up, Friendly Lukey Tube? Appreciate your support. Friendly Lukey Tube says the ACC is bluffing. They want the Big 12 to fill membership spots with these two pompous anchors instead of threatening their members soon. Pitt, Virginia Tech, Louisville. Interesting thought. The only thing I would say to kind of push back on that is just the Big 12, like the ACC seems headed for implosion at some point. And when that happens, it's not going to be just Florida State. Like if that league starts to blow up, you will see Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, Virginia, all jump, Clemson, all jump for life rafts pretty quickly. And then maybe like Virginia Tech and NC State trying to muscle their way into the Big Ten and or SEC would work as well. And then the conference will basically just be dissolved at that point. Like I think the only scenario where the Big 12 is adding ACC schools is one where that doomsday has already occurred. And whether that's going to be next week before that August 15th deadline that people keep talking about, or it's going to be well on into the future, a couple of years from now, like 2026, something like that, that would be the time where I think the Big 12 can strike. Don't think it's going to really work out any time before that at all. Because they are locked in so much of that ironclad contract. But you're thinking along the right lines for sure. I think that Friendly Loogie Tube, I would say for sure, you need to be thinking that way because everything we've seen play out, like this whole saga where like, Canzano is kind of fighting with Shear over details of the reporting and whether or not Arizona had already decided to leave for the Big 12 by the time Oregon and Washington made their final decision. It's just a battle of semantics on that right now. But it's been clear that everybody is working an angle there, right? Like Jason Shear would tell you that there was some gamesmanship involved in all of that. And Arizona, I think, kind of doubled down on that at the press conference today from what I heard from Robert Robbins, where he sort of said like, yeah, hey, we all thought we were going to sign that grant of rights on Friday morning. And then we got a call 10 minutes before that Oregon and Washington were leaving. But Jason Shear would tell you Arizona had already been accepted into the Big 12 by that point. So it was going to happen whether or not Oregon and Washington did this, but it's an easy way to kind of pin Oregon and Washington as the bad guy, right? So you got to be careful with where leaks are coming from, who's reporting what. And, the really good reporters are going to suss some of this out and try and make sure that they have their ducks in a row and what the real story is. But the national media clearly very quickly came to like, hey, Oregon and Washington screwed this thing up at the final hour. There was momentum. Everybody thought a deal was going to get done, and then it all got screwed up. But we first started to see that narrative from Canzano, who likely is getting it from Kirk Schultz at Washington State. Total vested interest in that thing obviously staying together. His school is in the single worst spot of anybody in the Pac-12 right now. So you just got to be careful. You got to be careful with what the motivations are with some of these things. Even like the Phil DiStefano story at Colorado, right? President at Colorado goes out there to the Denver Post and says, hey, we're expecting to actually see tangible numbers from George Kliavkoff tomorrow. Well, they weren't, and they didn't. And that whole thing was a shot, basically a warning shot to George Kliavkoff through the media. So everybody, particularly in realignment, is always working some sort of angle. Sammy, I feel you on this. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for your support. Sammy says, I am ready for football season to start and put realignment on hold. I understand. I definitely am too. I mean, realignment is endlessly captivating and fascinating, but I would much rather be watching football. I would definitely much rather be watching football. So I hear you. I feel you. I will definitely validate that comment, even as we go on to do basically an entire show about realignment, because that is what sells to a wide audience, and it's why 700 of you are here. And I appreciate those of you who are here. If you could like the video, I would much appreciate that. Since we do have a high number of people in here tonight, I will remind you, if you have not subscribed, I would highly encourage you to do that. You get conference realignment, college football, college basketball, all the time here on this channel. I'm live twice a week. Throw in some content outside of that as well. Please subscribe if you have not yet. Yes, Big 12 slant here, but we're covering all things college football, college basketball, and conference realignment. Make sure you click the bell as well, too, so you know when I'm going live and you know when it is that I am dropping content. If you could like the video, would much appreciate that. Totally free, easy way to support the channel. And if you want to make your voice heard, get your question or comment on tonight, you can click the $ below the chat box where it says say something to attach a super chat there, donate, add your question or comment to it. It ensures that it will get read. It will pin it up at the top of the chat for me, just like my man Alex did. What's up, Alex? Thank you for the support. Alex Larson checking in. Says the Big Ten only has 2 spots and the SEC only has 4. The old Big East schools aren't valuable enough for them. The SEC is an interesting case study here, because I truly don't think that they really need to do anything to counter the Big Ten adding Oregon and Washington. And we did see a report last week that they didn't have much interest in Florida State. Now, how true that actually is, if Florida State were legitimately on the market, I don't know. I wonder if other conferences would be a little leery of getting involved with Florida State, because that situation seems so tricky and messy, and there will be a lot of lawyers involved and all of that, et cetera. And the Big Ten surely is still waiting out Notre Dame and hoping that happens. But other than that, since they passed on Cal and Stanford, I'm not sure really where else they go right now. So maybe it slows down a little bit here, but maybe not. A lot of that obviously is going to hinge on the ACC. Les, what's up, Les? Appreciate you being here. Thank you for your donation and your support of the channel. Les says, as sad as the Pac-12 folding, the Pac-12 did this to themselves with ego, denial, gaslighting, and stupidity, which is encapsulated best by ASU's behavior over the last week. Thank you, Les. Thank you, Les, for giving me a nice transition here into how these schools have all ingratiated themselves, or not so much, since entering the conference. I will say, first and foremost, before we get into the Arizona State piece of this, I have to give a lot of credit to Utah and the way that they handled everything. Taylor Randall, the president, Mark Harlan, the athletic director. I watched most of their press conference that they had now to announce their entrance into the Big 12, and could not come across as more professional, courteous, and just like in control, and seem to be guys that have a really great handle on the situation and would be very sound decision makers. Makes perfect sense. I've said all along, like we've been annoyed with Utah fans for sure. They've earned it on Twitter with some of the arrogance that played out through that process, but we have seen contrition. Like, my guy, the Pig Bus, Pig Bus came back around seemingly, unless something has changed dramatically in the last couple of days. He came back around, admitted he was wrong and all of that. Like, Utah had more reason than anybody to want the Pac-12 to stay together. And it's clear that the leadership at Utah would know that. They won the league back-to-back years. They've had an immense amount of success with Kyle Whittingham in that conference. That conference helped elevate their profile. So there's going to be a lot of nostalgia tying you to that, just like appreciation for what the conference has done. And it was a conference that Utah was closer to geographically, that surely Utah fans would have grown up envying in a way, desperately wanting to be in that league and that sort of a league. And so you don't want it to go away. Utah had zero reason to want that to go away. But at the same time, once it became clear that staying in the Pac-12 was not going to be viable and Kliavkoff had not gotten this done, they also are smart enough to be like, okay, here's the move. Big 12 is still a good move here. We'll do that. We'll be okay. Utah is going to stay ahead of the curve and as close to the top of Power 5 athletics as we possibly can. And that's what came across to me in just watching them. I'm like, these guys get it. They did a pretty good job of definitely maneuvering around some of the more difficult questions about the timing on this. When did you find out? Like Oregon and Washington, asking about a lot of the things that we've seen reported. And they were very good about kind of brushing it off and being like, look, schools make decisions that they've got to make. We definitely wanted the Pac-12 to stay together, but we are excited for the Big 12 because of X, Y, and Z. I mean, that was the basic template for almost any answer, and that's the way to do it instead of the route that Arizona State has taken. So between realizing Utah Twitter is just a faction of Twitter fans, between seeing a little bit of a shift from that, and then having confirmed what I was told about Utah leadership at one point in time, I had somebody say, like, hey, get it. The fans have been very annoying. The fans have been very arrogant, but really pretty good leadership in place there at Utah. And I don't think they really thumb their nose at the Big 12 or look down at the Big 12. I believe it. I believe it now after watching their press conference. So very, very well done. Very well done, I would say, by Utah on that front. So they even, I will give them a shout out to this or for this. Taylor Randall, the president, made a joke, quoted Mark Harlan, the athletic director, and said, give me a break. He said, like, I think I'll quote the great Mark Harlan on this, give me a break, something to that effect, which of course was Mark Harlan's response to, I think it was a Dennis Dodd report at one point in time on Twitter, one of his now infamous tweets that he had out there. So they've got a good sense of humor too, just seem very sharp. And you watch them and you're like, okay, it makes total sense why Utah football has had the success that they have had in the last decade plus since Kyle Whittingham took over from Urban Meyer, right? They finished in the top 25, 7 of the last 9 years. They've been ranked in each of the last 10 years. They've won back-to-back Pac-12 titles. They have 4 double-digit win seasons in the last decade. Like, they have won at a high clip and a clip that is probably punching above their pay grade. Something I understand very well as a K-State fan. Meanwhile, you've got Arizona State on the other hand. Arizona State, which sits in the number 11 media market in the country with a top 10 enrollment in the country. They've got over 57,000 kids enrolled. Massive school, huge market, reputation as a really fun party school. Just got into the AAU, as Michael Crow has reminded us. So their academics seem to be on the rise. Just a great school overall. They have not finished in the top 25 in 9 straight years. Their last league championship was 1996. Arizona State has not had near the level of success Utah has had, and you just listen to their leadership for 10 minutes, and it becomes very apparent. It becomes very apparent. I mean, the Michael Crow, you got to go watch the Michael Crow press conference, the president in Arizona. Now, listening to him, I was expecting it to come across as perhaps a little bit more unhinged than it actually did. I kind of now was like, okay, I see how the vibe here with Crow is that he is somebody that I think has a reputation of doing some good things on the academic side, but just being clueless as far as athletics goes. And remember, he is the guy that was really cozy with Larry Scott and kind of enabled him to do more and more damage to the Pac-12. So there are a lot of concerns with him and a lot of red flags, even if what he has done in academia has been good. But you start listening to him, it's just very clear, like he wanted this. He wanted this Apple thing to work out. He is the only guy that I've seen really just universally laud this Apple deal, man. Here's a direct quote from him, and this will give you a little bit of get you a little bit keyed into his headspace and where he's at. But he says, we were offered a media contract by the Apple Corporation, which was a technological 23rd century Star Trek thing with really unbelievable capability that ASU was very interested in. Again, that is the quote after the Pac-12 blew up and he is now in the Big 12. He is talking about the Pac-12 media deal that nobody else wanted in that sort of light, with that sort of reverence, which I think tells you everything you need to know about where Michael Crow is at in all of this. And he went on, he talks about that at length, man. What seems clear now is that this Apple thing, they were pitching, hey, there would be stats that would immediately download that recruits could then put on their social, or kids, players could put on their social media right away. There would be some technological pieces of this that would be cool. They did legitimately sound cool, but the problem is you've got to then be the Girl Scout troop leader, the Cutco knife salesman going door to door, making sure that you get enough subs actually sold every single year for $100 a year to actually come anywhere close to the Big 12 number and a number that's going to keep you competitive. And when all the schools started to realize they actually had options, most of the schools there, that was something that was not going to fly. That clearly does not seem to be like getting through to Michael Crow. Like, the guy wanted to be associated with the Pac-12. Makes sense. He's an academic guy, academia. He wanted to be associated with the elite universities in the Pac-12. He definitely gets off on that. I can see, like, it becomes clear. I can see the picture of what he is and why that has caused some problems with Arizona State athletics. I'm looking at, he at one point said, like, the way that they described like their move, they were like, well, look, after a while, it did become obvious that we were in a league that just wasn't viable anymore, and we don't do not viable, so we fixed that. That was the way. Like, no mention of like the Big 12 or the Big 12 came and helped us. It was like we were in a league that wasn't viable all of a sudden, and we fixed that. That was it. Went out of his way to say that they held it down for the Pac-12 until the very last possible moment. You've got Crow like kind of stepping all over. It was a weird dynamic between the two where I felt like Crow was kind of almost treating Anderson like his kid or something, and like stepping all over him, interjecting at times to try and add little quips. And it just was off-putting to me. I was like, let the man speak here, Ray Anderson. But maybe Michael Crow was actually onto something, because when Ray Anderson did start speaking, he said this, quote, "I promise I'm not going to Morgantown. I'm going to sign that to Deputy AD Gene Boyd. He can go to Morgantown, but send me to Texas and the rivalry with Arizona and starting a new one with BYU, Utah, and Colorado." So he said, "I'm out. Don't send me anywhere cold. Don't send me anywhere far away. I'm going to have somebody else do that." Look, it's fine if you think Morgantown's a really long trip. I don't want to be doing a whole lot of that. It does underscore, again, the point that what the hell are we doing to the student athletes if the athletic director of the freaking university doesn't want to step on a chartered plane just to go to Morgantown, West Virginia for a game? Like, he's complaining about that, but you're going to send all of your Olympic sports there. This is how stupid realignment is, and how the adults in the room are making the majority of the money and then complaining about it all and screwing over the kids, and then getting mad when the kids have the audacity to ask for a little piece of the pie financially. But I digress. Either way, that's probably not something you should say, even if you think it when you're coming into the new league. Ingratiate yourself. Be a little bit grateful. Show some humility in coming into the new league. None of that from Ray Anderson. None of that from Arizona State. And it clicked. Of course, this is why they are one of the most underachieving athletic departments in the country. What has Arizona State? I should probably look it up before I make this statement. 1 second. Stand by. Okay. Yeah, it's fair enough for me to say this. What in the hell has Arizona State basketball done in the last quarter century? They made it to a Sweet 16 in 1995. And then since then, second round, first four, first round. And that's it as far as NCAA tournament appearances since 1995. Shout out to James Harden, I suppose. But like the basketball program, the football program, again, I mentioned they have not finished in the top 25 in the last 10 years of that football program. They hired Herm Edwards. Like, that's an easy thing to forget. Like, this is the leadership that hired Herm Edwards. Yeah, not good. Not good over there at Arizona State. Not good at all. So that is, look, to me, I know that Utah Twitter has been very annoying. I know that a lot of us have some beef with them. It's kind of clearing up to me. I get it. Utah seems like a big boy athletic program that knows how to run things and knows how to get as much out of what they're doing as they can. Arizona State could not be more opposite. Could not be more polar opposite. They've got work to do. And I know I'm not coming down on Arizona State fans, really. It seems like most of the fans generally kind of realize this. At least the prevailing opinion to me, from what I've seen from ASU fans, is that they understand the situation that they're in with athletics and don't really love it. So I'm not going to come down really hard on them. But boy, their administration is making it hard to like them much coming into the league, and making you worry a little bit about like what happens here if they're going to be a real, true malcontent being in the league. Are you going to have some issues with Arizona State? We shall see. I think Brett Yormark has earned enough trust to where I will trust him to be able to handle it and get it figured out. But the Big 12 fans we definitely have some trauma built up from Texas and how Texas worked out in this league, bullied people around, drove people away, caused so many problems for the league that I have a little bit of that. I have some caution. we'll be keeping an eye on that Arizona State situation. And I mean, really, what they really just need, they need to go around and get their what kicked a little bit out there, actually on the field, and absolve some humility from that. Problem is, I do think they actually have a pretty good coach right now with the football program anyway in Dillingham. It remains to be seen if that continues to move on an upward trajectory. But Arizona State may have made a pretty good hire there. Travis, what's up, Travis? Back to your donations, by the way. If you want to be a part of the show, you want to make your voice heard and support the work that I'm doing to bring you Big 12 and realignment content on a weekly basis, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That will attach a donation to your chat, pin it up at the top for me, and ensures that it gets read here tonight. Would appreciate your support. If you would also like the video, I would very much appreciate that. Totally free, just one click. And if you have not subscribed, consider subscribing. I'm live twice a week with other content in between. Travis, what's up, Travis? Who wins the New Look Conference in 24? Got to lean toward TCU or Baylor? I don't know, man. That is such a difficult question. Like, Texas will be gone. Texas and K-State are your top two for this year in the preseason poll. Texas is going to be out of the league. K-State will be replacing a quarterback in all likelihood in Will Howard. He does that. I guess I shouldn't maybe say it so definitively. He will have an extra year of eligibility after that. And even if he's not, Avery Johnson is the most hyped and highest rated quarterback recruit K-State has had in about 20 years behind him. But it will be, I mean, that will be a changing of the guard and certainly bring up a lot of questions. I don't think it would be fair of me to say like K-State would be the favorite there. Texas Tech's on the upswing, but I know Tech fans, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's a pretty veteran Tech squad that might have to go through a little bit of retooling after this year, but they've certainly been recruiting at a level to do it. Would just be youth. So I don't know, just working my way down. Like Baylor, Oklahoma State, TCU, I would not be opposed to you saying, hey, they should absolutely be in that conversation. But you know who else should be in that conversation is Utah. It's Utah, man. Let's look at their year by year. 10-4, 10-4. COVID season, they're 3-2. But 10-4, 10-4, 11-3. I mean, those are their last three non-COVID seasons. And 9-5, 7-6, 9-4, 10-3, 9-4. You've got to give a nod to Utah there. So if you want to just say like those have been the most consistent programs or programs with the highest highs here in like the last decade, I'm fine with that being the discussion. I mean, it's just a fool's errand to put a direct label on who I think would actually win. There's just so much, like, especially in the transfer portal era. I don't know, man, those rosters can change so much, but I think those are, I would just say like those are probably your most likely suspects and good places to start. Brad, what's up, Brad? I appreciate you, Brad, and I appreciate your question. Brad asked me how Madison was. Madison was great. I love Madison. I've only been twice. It's been in the summer both times, but just a wonderful place. Great lake to go hang out at. Student Union has like an area that just like looks at directly. You can just go sit next to the lake with like beer everywhere. I mean, pretty cool. Pretty cool town. They've got a great downtown. Now, I didn't experience much of the city. I will reiterate again. I was there for the CrossFit game, so I spent most of my time there, which was a really cool experience for me who nerds out on that. But Madison was great. I appreciate you asking, and I appreciate your support. Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael, I appreciate you. Michael says, Taylor Randall, class act, hashtag GoCougs, BYU grad. Yeah, I thought I saw someone say earlier that Taylor Randall's kids go to BYU too, which is very interesting. But yeah, class act for sure. Everything I picked up from watching him, I thought, man, these guys definitely do have class. Honestly, like the thing that strikes me about Utah just in so many ways is like it reminds me of K-State in a lot of ways, kind of doing much more with less, very classy, very just respectful in everything that they do. And I say that as a guy, people have been following me for a long time and through my K-State years, like I am much more gravitate towards the guy that like, I want flash. As I get older, I'm realizing like, hey, substance over style, probably a better way to go. So some maturity is seeping through me a little bit there, but I can appreciate what I saw from Utah there out of that. Chase, what's up, Chase? Have you ever heard a president and AD brag about where they went to graduate school? We aren't here to play PhD. They are a joke. I don't know that if I have heard a president brag about where they went to graduate school, I don't remember it. I don't remember it directly. And actually, Chase, you bring up a good point here. At least you just jogged my memory. I didn't even get to the Ray Anderson quote about Morgantown. Oh no, I guess I did. Yeah, I promise I'm not going to Morgantown. I'm going to assign that to Gene Boyd. He can go to Morgantown. But I wanted to slam dunk home on this. That is, I assume Ray Anderson has never been to Morgantown. I certainly hope he has never been to Morgantown. If he is going to say that, because I do have to defend the honor of Morgantown. Morgantown is a wonderful place to go for a game day. I would highly encourage anybody to do it. Is it a little bit difficult to get there? I mean, yes, because like every time I've gone, it's just been 4 times, 12, 14, 16, 18, 4 times. I had to fly to Pittsburgh and then drive it, but it's worth it. First of all, that's a pretty cool scenic drive. And then you get there and Morgantown is just so unique. And this is part of what makes college football great. And unfortunately is some of the fabric that's being undone right now because of TV and the sport, but it's such a unique place to be. And it is so different than the places I have been in the Big 12. And I loved that experience being in Morgantown because of that. And then the tailgate scene is great. If you're talking about game day, tailgate scene is great. So great atmosphere in the stadium. They've got a great stadium, great setup. It's a very cool college town that is different and unique, and it's what makes the sport great. And if Ray Anderson doesn't want to give that a chance or doesn't like that, Ray Anderson, I should be careful, I suppose, what I say. But I don't. I mean, that's very unfortunate for Mr. Anderson. Okay, that's putting it as nicely as I can possibly put it. I would disagree with him vehemently. That's what makes the sport great. Some of the complaints I'd seen from Pac-12 fans coming in, it was like, all of a sudden I'm going to Manhattan and Ames and Lubbock instead of Eugene and LA. And if you want to go to LA, go to LA. If you want to I love big cities. Go to New York is one of my favorite places on earth, New York City. But I'm not going to New York City for college football. If I'm going to a place for college football, I want to be in a great college town. And the Big 12 has that. The Big 12 delivers that. I did an interview with Michael Luke, Arizona guy, earlier today, who does a great job, not just with that, but does a great job in general. We were kind of having that conversation. Like, he was like, look, just the fan bases seem so much more passionate here, and I'm excited about that. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. Great fan bases, great facilities, and great college towns. Doesn't mean that they have to be a great city that you would want to go live in as like a 25-year-old young professional. That's not what a college town is supposed to be. A college town is supposed to have a great atmosphere for these games and really unique little traditions and idiosyncrasies that make it very fun and special and unique in different parts of the country. And Morgantown is absolutely that to a T. And so are so many of the towns across the Big 12. So that just is so tone deaf. That is so tone deaf to me from Ray Anderson to say that. Even if you are just trying, I don't care what the tone actually was on that. If you're just trying to make a joke, I saw a little bit of the defense for hey, if you listen to it in context, you just don't say that because you don't think that if you're in college athletics, you got to love it for the college towns and all that. That's why we love it. And that's why people are complaining about where the game is going right now. And it's very off-putting and very tone deaf to say something like that. So anyway, a little bit of a tangent there, Chase. Thank you for your support. I hope that I didn't get off on too much of a tangent there. And as I say that, I'm reading down, I see Mike Smith says John is flapping his gums too much. Mike, I don't know if you realize this, Mike. Don't know if you realize this. That's all I do. This is a channel where that's what I do, is talk. I will be talking for the remainder of the hour here, and I talk for about an hour twice a week straight through here. You might be new here, but that's how it works is I talk. And if you would like me to talk about something different, Mike, you are more than welcome to click the $ below where it says say something in the chat box, which is how you do that. And your super chat will get pinned up at the top for me and ensures that it makes it here on the chat. If not, you are free to leave, sir. Free to leave. Okay. Let's see. I got Matthew, but I'm missing a couple others. All right. Catching up here on the chat, guys. Sorry. We have a handful of them. Bruce, what's up, Bruce? Bruce says, BYU fan alum here. Know what I love about the new Big 12 versus other conferences? The lack of pretentiousness. Well, except for Utah. There's definitely some of that from the Utah fans on Twitter. But I will stress again, Bruce, if you go watch the press conference today with leadership at Utah, president and AD, you would be very impressed. No pretentiousness from them at all. None. Like, I thought handled that as cordially as you possibly could have on both sides of the Pac-12 and Big 12, which is not as easy of a needle to thread as you might think here, especially with all the conflicting reporting going around back and forth now. So I would caution you to maybe give Utah fans another chance there, but hey, I get it. You're a BYU fan, so I know. I guess I say that more for everybody else than you yourself, Bruce. But there is a definite lack of pretentiousness right now in the conference. There is also a genuine togetherness, not just because of everything that everybody went through, but now the fact that you pulled through on the other side and things are going well for you. Big 12 is racking up wins. That is another piece of why it's a little bit annoying that there's such a downtrodden mood in college football right now, with everybody finally now coming down to like, oh, this is the worst. The Big 12 finally wins, and the rest of the college football world has to declare it's too much. It's too much. If the Big 12 is winning, it is just too much. Kyle, what's up, Kyle? Kyle says, here's to looking forward to the future and being in a great conference. Utes made the right decision. RIP Pack. Thanks for the memories. That is a very balanced take to have, and one that I think makes a lot of sense. You can absolutely treasure the memories you had in the Pac-12. You should, if you are Utah, because you did a lot of really good things in that conference. But yes, at the same time, it was not going to be viable. Leadership had been bad. Lots of poor decisions have been made that were probably out of your control. So you go on and you find the best spot for you, and you've definitely done that. Kyle, well played. I agree with you. Kyle, what's up, Kyle? Kyle says, looking forward to the future with the Big 12. Happy to be a part of this conference. Go Utes. Can't wait till next year. Look at this, guys. Look at this. We're turning the tide with Utah fans here. We've got nice Utah fans in the chat. Let's all give them another chance here, okay? Let's give Utah fans another chance. Kyle, thank you. Thank you, Kyle, for reiterating that. R-Web, what's up, R-Web? Great to see you. R-Web says, hey, John, I like this question a lot, by the way. How about the potential bowl upgrades for the Big 12 with the 4-pack gone? Holiday, Vegas, and SEC Big 10 opponent in the Alamo. I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm not really like a Vegas guy, but I understand the appeal of Vegas, and I know that a lot of fans would really like Vegas, and it is just new. So anything that is new, I'm absolutely here for. And that is nothing against any of the bowls that the Big 12 has been tied to for a long time. But, I made about 17 trips to Phoenix for K-State in the early 2010s. God, where else have we been a bunch? I've been to Memphis for the Liberty Bowl a couple of times. You guys know, if you've been around here for a while, my thoughts on that. And even just places that were cool and I liked, like Phoenix was cool and I liked it, but it was just, you've been doing the same thing over and over because it was the Buffalo Wild Wings, but you also had the Fiesta Bowl when K-State went there in 2012, and K-State's been to 3 Fiesta Bowls. So it was just, everything was a little bit oversaturated. The Alamo Bowl, honestly, I feel like I've spent a lot of time in San Antonio at the Alamo Bowl. It'd be, yes, nice to get an opponent to switch it up there. SEC Big 10 now, since that's always been a Pac-12 tie-in. But the crown jewel of it all, R-Web, is the Holiday Bowl. I want the Holiday Bowl so badly for the Big 12. I love San Diego. Probably my second favorite place in the country outside of New York City. Love San Diego. Love visiting there. And it's a bowl that I am nostalgic about from when I was a kid. And the Big 12 had a tie-in there. And the Big 8 had a tie-in there. And K-State played in it a couple times. I miss the Holiday Bowl like crazy, and I really want that one back. And I was so mad, R-Web, when the Big 12 didn't switch up their bowl affiliations. That was like within the last year. I feel like it came up within the last year, maybe 2. It was since I had been doing this channel, and I was very upset when I saw that. Like, come on, man. Can we do something different with the bowls? We need it. We need it. We need it. We need it. So, yes, I love that opportunity popping up here. Jay Rodriguez, what's up, Jay Rodriguez? Thank you for being here and your support. Jay Rodriguez says, thanks for the work last week, John. Welcome to the Big 12, to Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah. Go Cougs. Yes, indeed, Jay Rodriguez. Thank you for being here and supporting the channel and watching the content that I put out last week. And yes, welcome to the Big 12, Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. And look at that. Jay Rodriguez even welcoming Arizona State. He's welcoming Arizona State. Not concerned enough about the comments of the leadership there to throw something in there at him. I'm just messing around with you. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew says, let's get these new Big 12 matchups started. Count me as one who wants to see a game in Morgantown, unlike other people new to the party. Greetings from Chile. Don't spend all the pesos in one place. I was about to look that up. I was about to Google CLP currency, Chilean peso. Yep, Chilean peso. Okay. We just got 5,000 Chilean pesos donated here, everybody. Thank you, Matthew. Love that. Thank you for keeping up our international flavor. It's a new country to add to the list. We've got a lot. We got a lot of countries to add to the list here. I feel like it's been popping up about once a month here lately. So thank you, Matthew. Thank you. K-State by 90. Love the show, John. Thank you, K-State by 90. Appreciate your support. Very kind of you. I love the way that you support the channel, K-State by 90. So right back at you. Provo Cougar fan. What's up, Provo Cougar fan? That's pretty good. Provo Cougar fan. Utah to the Mountain West. ... Damn too late. Yeah, missed it by a week. You're about a week too late on that, Provo Cougar fan. That would have been a great comment. Could have come in hot and heavy with that a week ago. But unfortunately now that is not the way it has transpired. So look at me. Speaking of threading needles, I'm trying to thread the needle here. Still loving up my BYU friends and then trying to get everybody to give Utah a little bit of a second chance because I've been very impressed by what I saw in their press conference. Travis, what's going on, Travis? Travis, thank you for the support. Travis says Big 12 fans might be new to the hatred toward BYU and Utah fans. It is a legit rivalry. We love this conference. We'll forever look down on them. I am sold on the rivalry. Somebody asked me just the other day, what is going to be the best rivalry in the new Big 12? I mean, to me, it's the Holy War. I am here for it. I think it is great, and I'm ready to experience it a little more up close and personal now. So I do get it to an extent, like maybe not to the full extent that you were referencing there, because I have not been knee deep in it like you guys have. But I do have a general understanding of it, and I get it. I get it. You guys do not like each other at all. T Win, what's up, T Win? Thank you for your support, my friend. UCF, Utes, Arizona State are on another planet, but this banter is good for football. Will make fans create continental smack talking. That's actually a very good point. And I think you single out like the three fan bases that are kind of rubbing people the wrong way right now out of the 8 that are new here. Utah, because of the Twitter interactions over the last year. Arizona State, mainly because of their leadership coming in the way that they are. And UCF, definitely UCF Twitter. UCF Twitter knows how to mix it up. They are very brash. But I totally agree with you that even if we do get annoyed with some of it, it is very good for the conference. It is good for creating new rivalries. It is good for just making this fun and playing into what the brand of this league is going to be, which is going to be chaos. I mean, I think that's the other reality. Someone asking me again, who do you think wins this league in 24? I don't know. Last man standing. It will be chaotic. It's going to be a chaotic league with no real weak links and a lot of schools that are like pretty good at what they do. And fan bases that care a whole hell of a lot. Like you're going to have a really concentrated group of fan bases that are very active online and engaged here in this new league. So that sets the groundwork for a lot of fun. I've heard a lot of talk lately around where I'm at in Kansas City about Missouri and the SEC and their thoughts there. And a lot of it is centered around people being like, wouldn't Mizzou fans really, truly in their heart of hearts rather be in the Big 12 and playing the regional rivals as opposed to being in the SEC, and yes, making more money, but not, you lose some of the rivalry edge to that and some of the rivalry aspect to that. Even if you do prefer the money and the security, which I mean, obviously I think anybody would in the SEC, there's a part of you that misses that. That's what makes college sports great. That's what makes college football great. And the Big 12 is going to have that in spades in part because of the way these fan bases are. So I think it's a very good point, T to win. Jamie, what's up, Jamie? Thank you for being here, Jamie. Jamie says, John, congrats to the Big 12. Going to be one of the Power 3 conferences in the future. New rivalry name for Arizona State, West Virginia. Let's get a Big 12 SEC challenge now. Hashtag WooPigSuey. Ooh, rivalry name for Arizona State, West Virginia. I'll send that to the chat. Let's crowdsource that one. Rivalry names for Arizona State and West Virginia. Is it the Ray Anderson Bowl? Do we just start the bidding at the Ray Anderson Bowl? I mean, that's not my most creative work, but that's at least an option. Seems like a pretty good option based on what we have. Just jumped ahead on me. Sorry. Brad, what's up, Brad? Brad says, other than Vandy and Texas, the SEC is all college towns. Yeah, look, and that's what makes it great. I've been to Starkville. I have also been to Nashville. I've been to a K-State Vandy game. K-State played at Mississippi State, so I've been to Starkville. I've been to Mizzou now, technically. An SEC school. That might be where it stops. Think about that. That might be where it stops. But yeah, and in the South, I mean, we joke about it just means more, but they're as active and engaged as anybody. When you don't have as much professional sports flair, everybody is involved in those. That is what makes up the fabric of the sport that we all know and love. R. Crandall, what's up, R. Crandall? R. Crandall says, as a BYU fan, I'm willing to say what's best for the conference should overrule individual concerns. So I'll just say, welcome Utah. Hey, R. Crandall, even though you added that I just vomited upon saying that, thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for vomiting for the sake of the conference. We appreciate that, R. Crandall. We appreciate it. And I appreciate you and your support of the conference. I'm sure there are many that are kind of in that same spot. And I do feel a little bit bad for the fact that like BYU, the way the money is going to work out, where BYU has to come in at a reduced share and then work their way up, and Utah, because of circumstance, comes in with the full share. Not really a perfect system. The way again, just another thing about like realignment that just doesn't make any damn sense. But that's where we are. That's how we got here, and it's all going to be okay. All right, Mike. Mike extending an olive branch. I appreciate you, Mike. First super chat from Mike. Thank you, sir. Mike says, was joking about you flapping your gums too much. Your jawline is epic. Let's go Mountaineers and send Ray Anderson to Morgantown in December. Yeah, that is the ticket, right? That, Mike, thank you, first of all. But that is what it has to be. You've got to send Arizona State to Morgantown in December. I told this story just the other day. Coldest I've ever been in my life was the 2014 K-State West Virginia game in Morgantown. It was freezing, and I was filming on the sideline. So I was just out in the elements the entire day. That was awful. Absolutely brutal. And Ray Anderson, I think, needs to experience that. Michael, what's up, Michael? Michael says, Holy War Online is toxic, but great / fun in person. I feel like that could describe just about any fan base. Very toxic online, but great and fun in person. I think that's just kind of how it works. So that makes sense, Michael. That checks out. Neilio, what's up, Neilio? Thank you for your support as always, man. Neilio says, good Monday evening to you, my friend. Another great show. My head is still spinning over all the realignment. Just crazy. Keep up the great work. # Go Cats. Thank you, Neilio. One of my favorites. Thank you for being here and your support as always. Go Cats indeed. Should get back on the 3-mod train on Wednesday, I think. So be looking out for that. Should get you some more K-State content there. But thank you as always for your support and for being here. Rampton fam, what's up, Rampton fam? First super chat from Rampton fam. Thank you. I do not see a comment attached there. So if I am missing that, I apologize. I'm trying to see if there was one left in the chat after that. But if you have something, Rampton fan, let me know. Otherwise, thank you very much for your support. WSJ, another first timer here. WSJ, what's up, WSJ? Thank you for entering the fray here with your super chat. WSJ says, on paper, the new Big 12 looks like the most balanced of the Power 5 conferences. The gambling public is going to see the new Big 12 as a must watch. Yeah, I mean, I would think there's actually probably going to be a decent amount of appeal to the better. I was going to say like casual college football fan, but especially the better, like somebody that wants vested interest in like entertaining games. There will be no shortage of that in the Big 12. And another thing to keep in mind is this will not just be on Saturdays. And I know that's not something that everybody loves, but it is something that I think you should have accepted as a reality by now. I think in football and basketball, you're going to have a lot of non-conventional days where games are being played. I mean, in football, was that Mike Gundy had a great quote the other day where he was just like, hey, TV says we're going to do it, we're going to do it. But he was talking about playing on Friday, and that is something that is going to happen. Basketball, I think, I've kind of been told like basketball, I think maybe doing some Thursday, Friday, Sunday, just because there's going to be so much inventory that needs to get in there. So it's going to be all over the board, which also helps drawing in a gambling audience, just giving them more options to consume your conference on different days of the week. That is going to make the Big 12 more appealing in that realm. So yes, I agree with you, WSJ. I do agree with you. David Moore, David says couch burning fest. Okay, it could be the couch burning bowl, Arizona State v West Virginia. I see some of the Flint and Fire Bowl. That's pretty good too. Big Jacks 5-12. Houston 4-0 versus Utah all time. Yes, football. Go Cougs. Woo! All-time smack, Utah. There's some all-time smack being levied at you by Big Jack. Big Jack coming in strong. Houston 4-0 all-time against Utah. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Matthew, thank you for being here and your support. Matthew says, Crystal Ball Sports agreed with me that Ole Miss being ranked above Tech when both teams are identical from the Texas Bowl is SEC bias. Also A&M ranked. Rolling the eyes. Yeah, I mean, look, I will roll my eyes very hard at Texas A&M. Some of the stuff coming out of A&M, Jimbo was complaining about the money in college sports again the other day. It's like, Jimbo, listen, buddy. Of all the people in college athletics who could be complaining about anybody doing something for the money, let's look at your contract. Let's look at what you've produced. You are making this outlandish contract because A&M has crazy amounts of money from the SEC, crazy amounts of like oil money, everything happening there. You are not the messenger for that. And now that the idea is out there about, private equity, Texas A&M will be the first to sell their souls to the Saudis. So let's just be a little, yes, I am very much with you. I hate the A&M hype. Tech and Ole Miss, I don't know Ole Miss's roster intimately enough. I know they've got some pretty good options at quarterback, and I know that I like Lane Kiffin. I'm sure they'll have a good offense. Texas Tech, though, should definitely be considered a dark horse for the Big 12 title. And yes, did have a very nice Texas Bowl. So I feel you there, Matthew. I feel you. You know it's going to happen. I mean, we know it's going to happen every year. There will definitely be some of that. Robert, what's up, Robert? Robert says, JK, how about a meditation channel? LOL, go Big 12. Hey, some of us might need that. By the time when we start getting into the weeds of this and actually playing games in 24, 25 and beyond, some of us may need a meditation channel. And I suppose realignment could probably take us there anyway, although it has not been nearly as stressful being on this side of it this time around now, 2 years later. But thank you, Robert. Thank you for joining the chat and being here. Les, what's up, Les? Les says, what do you think will be the biggest struggle new teams will have against the irate eights? I think the physicality and farm boys will bulldoze until the rest catch up to the irate eight. I think there probably will be an adjustment period there. I mean, look, I don't worry about Utah being tough enough to handle it. But the Pac-12, you definitely think stereotypically being more finesse. I think the Big 12 is probably generally a little bit more physical. That would certainly be my stereotypical opinion of it all. I think the other thing that will be an adjustment is just dealing with better road environments consistently, because there will be really good, really difficult road environments consistently to be walking into. It's easy to take a look at the stadium sizes and say, well, nobody's above, what is it, like 63? 63, the highest capacity stadium in the Big 12. It's somewhere around there. But these stadiums are generally full and loud. And Arizona State, have fun traveling to Ames in November. Good luck with that. That's not going to be something that will be super appealing to them. So I think that will be a part of it. Probably more physical. Maybe some of the colder weather stuff will be an adjustment. But I would say just more consistent, difficult home field advantages that they will have to deal with on the road instead of, the pictures that we see of the Rose Bowl when UCLA is handling home games in front of a smattering of 500 friends and family spread throughout the entire historic stadium. I think it'll be that sort of thing. And there probably will be a little bit of an adjustment period as there is with anybody, but it doesn't really matter because eventually you can figure it out. See TCU, TCU has figured it out and had some really high highs in this conference. Okay. One last check here of the notes. I don't think I'm missing anything. I guess we didn't fully cover the Big 12. I just sort of breezed over the Big 12 dispute on whether or not they're looking at expanding west. And some people are probably very mad at me for getting this far without reading you the exact tweets here. But there was a bit of a back and forth between Jason Scheer and Max Olson. Jason Shear said, hearing Oregon State and San Diego State have had very preliminary talks with the Big 12 over the last 48 hours. Keyword is preliminary, and it would be at discounted rates. And then Max Olson said the Big 12 is not discussing adding Oregon State or San Diego State at this time. Two conference sources tell The Athletic. So to me, that one kind of came down to like semantics, that perhaps having preliminary talks with those schools just to do some vetting there would not be the same as like legitimately discussing adding them. And so you could have a bit of just a war of who is telling it in what way. I would think the Big 12 probably went to Max Olson there and said, hey, we don't, for optics sake, and it look, nothing against Oregon State or San Diego State, but for optics sake right now, we just claimed 4 sitting Power 5 schools coming in, one of them, which has won the Pac-12 2 years in a row. We don't really want our name associated there. Memphis, like, remember the Memphis back and forth, or like the Memphis paper was claiming that Brett Yormark was legitimately in Memphis, and the Big 12 was like vehemently working reporters to deny that. You know, I think there are probably some optics going on there, and they may have been having some legitimate conversations behind the scenes. But then today, kind of doubling down on that, we got Brett McMurphy. His latest tweet on this said Big 12 has, quote, no appetite to add any of the Pac-4 schools or San Diego State. Sources told the Action Network, quote, we have no interest in doing anything. The source said, we're done. Always fair to analyze where this is coming from, what the angle might be. I think it's been very clear Brett Yormark works the angles very, very well, I might add, in the media with all of this. But I'm not really sure what angle there would be other than just, again, like I said, trying to be a little bit out front of it and like, hey, we would rather just only be associated with bigger fish that we're going for here right now, and not have it get out of every single school that we do a little bit of due diligence on. We don't need more Fresno situations where Fresno's going to run their mouth and be like, hey, we're a legit Big 12 candidate, and get John Canzano to write that every single week. So, yeah, there's also been a lot of back and forth about, you know, whether or not how the Oregon-Washington stuff went down. John Canzano claiming that Oregon and Washington really did pull one over on everybody at the very last minute, and the Pac-12 was that close to getting it pulled out. I mean, look, the guy, at this point, it's not even going down with the ship. Like, John Canzano is about as deep down as the whatever sub that went to go look at the Titanic and is still trying to play the violin that deep underwater. So that's what's happening there, and I'm back and forth with Shear. I mean, look, I followed this thing for a year. I know who I trust more as far as all that goes. So there's some semantics at play there. I would just, my opinion on it, I would sit tight if I were the Big 12 for right now. Probably would. Nothing against Oregon State and San Diego State. I think there is some value there with both, particularly if they're coming in at reduced shares. But I don't know, man. I think you wait. There's so much going on with the ACC. I think you would be misguided to not sit and wait and be patient and see what goes on there. If you could pull off and add a little bit more East. And we know Yormark wants to be a coast-to-coast sort of conference. So we'll keep you updated on what's going on with there. But that was the latest on that front. David, what's up, David? Well, David beating the buzzer here. Thank you for your support as always, David. David says, which place is the worst to play in November? Ames, Iowa, or Morgantown, West Virginia? Man, that's tough. It's tough. You know, they're both going to be cold. You know, they're both going to be loud, and they're both going to be like filled to the brim. Really tough. I mean, to be honest with you, for K-State, like thinking of my squad and what I've watched my squad do, Ames has been the tougher place to play recently. K-State has had some better luck in Morgantown outside of like 2016 was rough. They lost in 18 too. Probably lost in 20, right? Yeah. So I guess, you know, they haven't been great really in Morgantown recently either. I might go like slight lean to Ames right now, but that's a great question, and both places that are difficult and tough. And especially if we're talking about like some of the travel for a school like Arizona State, they are not going to like that trip going to Morgantown that late in the year. But thus is the reality of conference realignment. We know that. We know that. So with that, I think I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you, everybody, for being here. If you are new, make sure to subscribe. College football, college basketball, conference realignment, all day, every day here on this channel. 2 live shows during the week, typically Wednesday and Sunday. We'll see about the rest of this week. I may have to go Thursday instead of Wednesday. I'm guessing we're going to continue to have news breaking throughout the week, so I will definitely try to do that. And then hopefully get back on track this Sunday. So it could be a 3 live show week technically. I'll keep you updated. Follow me on Twitter at JL Kurtz for the latest on realignment and the schedule and everything that is going on there. Once again, subscribe. Let your friends know about the channel. Let's keep growing this thing. If you're a new fan, Utah, Arizona State, Arizona, Colorado, tell people that are friends of your school. Spread by word of mouth. Spread on social media. Fan groups that would enjoy this channel and want to be involved in this Big 12 community. Let them know about it. Let's continue to grow this thing. Like the video on the way out the door. I would much appreciate that as well. My guy, Daniel, thank you. Cat fan in Huskerland, a.k.a. Daniel Osborne, coming in with a donation. Much, much, much appreciated. He says, I will watch this later, John. Go Cats. Thank you, Daniel. You're the best. Thank you for being a rock star and supporting this channel. As always, I hope you and everybody else have a great rest of your Monday night. And leave a comment section on your way out the door. Like the video on your way out the door. And I will talk to you all later. Take care.